Folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris once again. Hey folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. This is Chris and a surprise live stream here as I want to bring you some very important news that broke today on the 22nd of February 2021. Of course, much of the nation was absorbed by the nomination process for Attorney General nominee Merrick Garland. But that's not the big news of the day, folks, not even by a long stretch. Nor is the big news of the day the win and the loss for Donald John Trump. Former President Trump lost a court case today when the Supreme Court refused to prevent a lower court from actually accessing his tax records from 2011 to 2019 and said he has no special protections and they can in fact go ahead and do that. So a bit of a loss for Trump and a win. Stormy Daniels' case against Donald Trump was dismissed by the Supreme Court saying that she can't pursue that. So a win and a loss for Trump and Merrick Garland nomination process beginning in the Senate Judiciary Committee. But that's not the big news, ladies and gentlemen. Today in the House, there was a congressional meeting in the House of Representatives called Fanning the Flames, Disinformation and Extremism in the Media. Members of the House Energy Commerce Committee sent a letter today to Comcast, AT&T, Spectrum, Dish, Verizon, Cox, and Altus, asking about their role in the spread of dangerous misinformation, as it was quoted in the letter. To our knowledge, the cable, satellite, and over-the-top companies that disseminate these media outlets to American viewers have done nothing in response to the misinformation aired by these outlets. Now, this letter came from two Democratic representatives, long-sitting members in the House of Representatives, both from California. That's Anna G. Eshoo and Eshoo McNerney, both from California. So, in response to this, there have been a number of responses. One came from one of the news outlets that's targeted by this. The outlets specifically targeted by this include Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, and another outlet, all of whom have been identified by these folks in a letter saying that they are spreading misinformation. Strangely, there's no mention of Facebook, of YouTube, Twitter, Parler, or any of the other social media outlets. This is focused on cable companies. In response to this, the following was said today. These two press releases came out by commissioners from the Federal Communications Commission this very day. Bear in mind, this is a Biden administration, and the FCC works for President Biden, and these are the responses that came out from them. So let's take a look at the first one here. So I'm going to read this. You probably have a hard time seeing it over there, but this is for immediate release. This is from FCC Commissioner Carr, response to Democrats' efforts to censor newsrooms, 22nd of February 2021. I'm just reading simply from the news, folks, in case anybody's wondering. This is not opinion. This is an actual statement from the Federal Communications Commission. And if this gets censored, that would be shocking indeed, because this is from the actual body that oversees telecommunications in this country, the Federal Communications Commission. And with that, let me continue with Commissioner Carr's statement. He said that today, two senior Democrats on the House Energy and Commerce Committee targeted the newsroom decisions of a handful of media outlets. They did so by sending letters to 12 cable providers and other companies that carry these outlets. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr provided the following response. Today, two senior Democrats on the House Energy and Commerce Committee selectively targeted a handful of news media outlets for their coverage of political events. By writing letters to the cable providers and other regulated entities that carry these news media outlets, the Democrats are sending a message that is as clear as it is troubling. These regulated entities will pay a price if the targeted newsrooms do not conform to Democrats' preferred political narratives. This is a chilling transgression of the free speech rights that every media outlet in this country enjoys. Debate on matters of public interest should be robust, uninhibited, and wide open. More speech is better than less. Yet the concerted effort by Democrats to drive political dissent from the public square represents a marked departure from these First Amendment norms. A newsroom's decision about what stories to cover and how to frame them should be beyond the reach of any government official not targeted by them. To the House Democrats that used their official letterhead to launch this inquiry, I would say this. Your demand to know the moral principles that guide a private entity's decision about what news to carry cannot be reconciled with bedrock principles of free speech and journalistic freedom. I call on my FCC colleagues to join me in publicly denouncing this attempt to stifle political speech and independent news judgment. This from Federal Communications Commissioner Brendan Carr on the 22nd of January 2020. Well, Brendan Carr is not alone in his condemnation of what happened today. This came from another commissioner, and this is Nathan Symington. So this is what he had to say. Today, members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee sent letters to 12 cable, satellite, and online providers carrying certain media outlets. FCC Commissioner Nathan Symington provided the following response. It is worrying that members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee have found it appropriate or necessary to apply the overbroad and vague label of misinformation to any media reportage that calls into question their preferred political narratives, and have sought to intimidate and to silence those who would distribute on their platforms disfavored points of view. This is particularly concerning because the House Energy and Commerce Committee supervises the Communications Act, and their statement could be read to imply the action will be taken under the Communications Act should the recipients not agree in advance to chill their speech. I share Commissioner Carr's view that more rather than less speech is a desirable aim of public policy and the foundation of civic engagement. And I trust the American people will make up their own minds regarding to whom they choose to listen. Well, these two statements, rather shockingly, rather quickly coming out from commissioners of the Federal Communications Commission. That's rather quick response that came out there, folks, from the Federal Communications Commission today in Washington, D.C. in response to this letter sent by two members of the House of Representatives from California. Now, they're not alone. They are not alone. Newsmax, which is one of the targets of this, had this to say. The House Democrats' attack on free speech and basic First Amendment rights should send chills down the spines of all Americans. Newsmax reported fairly and accurately on allegations and claims made by both sides during the recent election contest. We do not see that same balanced coverage with CNN and MSNBC pushed for years. The Russian collusion hoax, airing numerous claims and interviews with Democratic leaders that turned out to be patently false. Well, folks, this is definitely getting attention. In the midst of this, every single Democrat voted in favor of House Resolution 1, which is designed to affect the way we vote and for Congress to usurp the role of the state legislatures in the voting process at the national level. That is not delegated to our Congress or to the federal government. It is delegated to the state legislatures in each of the individual states. One of the reasons why we are a union of states, not a confederation, not a strong central government, but a union of states where states' rights matter. And that is why that was left to the state legislatures to set up the rules. But Congress, seeking to usurp power not granted to it in the Constitution, has now passed in or decided to vote for House Resolution 1 in the House of Representatives, every single Democrat. Troubling times indeed. But most troubling here is the effort to stifle free speech. Why is that? Why are people so afraid of speech? If people are loons, if they're nut jobs, if they're wingnuts, then people won't listen to them. It's the height of arrogance for officials in D.C. to deem themselves, to deign to decide what people can and cannot listen to because they think that people can't make decisions for themselves. Well, it's not their place. They seem to lose sight of the fact that the people in Washington, D.C. are our elected representatives, not our overlords, not our chieftains, not our kings, queens, knights, and nobles. We have selected them to represent us because true democracy is impossible in a country of 330 million people, as it was impossible in a country of 3.1 million people in 1790 at the first census. Therefore, we elect congressional representatives in the House of Representatives, the junior body of the legislature, and in the Senate, the senior body of the legislature, to represent our needs and goals and desires, not to dictate to us as if they are some geniuses, not at all. Well, folks, very troubling news out of Washington, D.C. today, and I have to say that this is quite shocking. Now, let me also say this. I have not attacked anyone. I have not used any hate speech. I have not incited any violence. I have not violated any single YouTube community standard. I have used measured and restrained language in reporting the news and giving minor a bit of analysis. If you want more analysis, you can check out my other video, which will be on a different platform that does not censor free speech. So check that out. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. If you're not a subscriber to Chris White Africa, thank you for tuning in for this impromptu short live stream. I'll be preparing a video which will appear elsewhere, but which I think is certain to be pulled down without explanation on this platform. So I'm not going to put that video on this platform. It'll be more detailed and more pointed analysis about what actually happened today and the people involved, the two representatives from California, and what they may be up to. Well, thanks a lot. If you're not a subscriber, smash the button. Toggle the bell icon so you can select all updates, and be sure to give me a like. All right, I'd appreciate it. I see that 4 people watching right now, and nobody has commented. That's fine. I appreciate it. The intent of this was more just to get this up there very quickly. So thank you for your time, for your patience, and for your patronage. And, oh, man, this is pretty scary. This is pretty scary. I am starting to wonder if I'm living in the Soviet Union. Members of Congress sending a letter basically threatening or intimidating cable providers unless they remove Fox News, OAN, and others. Just crazy. Neil says, Otto von Bismarck once said, God loves drunks, children in the United States of America. Well, God must be asleep because things are not going very well in the Republic. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. That's it. I'm going to close right here, and I will catch you next time. And since I'm going to close, I'm going to head and close out with my usual closing credits here. Just got to, where's it at? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.